All right, folks, Samori Benjamin here with longtime former NBA player Jeff Turner, and also Jeff is the Orlando Magic broadcaster here and has been for many years. Jeff, thanks for coming on. Nice meeting you.
Very nice to meet you as well.
So Jeff, you're from Massachusetts, right?
I was born in Maine, actually.
Born in Maine, okay.
Yep. So I was born in Maine. My just lived there a year. Didn't grow up in Maine. My father was stationed in the Air Force up in Bangor when I was born. So for a long time I was the only NBA player born in the state of Maine. So that was among, well, probably it was my greatest claim to fame, actually.
Interesting. So you're from Maine?
Yeah.
Okay, cool, nice. I know there's one of the top prospects now in high school is coming out of Maine, right?
Yes, Cooper Flagg, yes.
Yeah, yes. Okay, and so you went to college at Vanderbilt, right?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so how did you end up at Vanderbilt?
Well, I grew up in Florida, over in the Tampa area and Orlando area, and when I was being recruited coming out of high school, I kind of settled on the home state team, the University of Florida, and Vanderbilt. I really liked the schedule. You know, back then we didn't have a lot of AAU and things like that, so you never really knew what your prospects were going forward. And so I thought, well, I'll use this basketball thing, get to a school. My original thing was I was going to be a lawyer. I wanted to go to law school, so I thought Vanderbilt would probably get me headed on the right path.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Okay, so you're playing in the SEC at that time, right? And you have a really good college career. At what point did you think that you had a chance to go to the NBA?
It's very interesting. Not till probably my senior year did people start talking about that.
Right, okay, and I know you were on the '84 Olympic team,
yes,
right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that must have been an incredible experience. Bob Knight, head coach, and playing with Jordan and Patrick Ewing and all those guys. Wow, so in college, '84 Olympics, what kind of experience was that?
It was tremendous. I think probably going through that experience, through the trials, making that team, being around Jordan, Ewing, Mullen, all those guys, all future NBA players, it's when you really start to understand that maybe you can turn this into a career as well. But I always tell people that summer with Bob Knight, I learned more about the game of basketball. It was like a master's class. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that experience under Bob Knight and just what Ewing and Jordan and Sam Perkins was a part of that team, right? I mean, so what do you remember about what the practices were like?
They were, the practices were intense. We only had a short time to get ready, for the Olympics in Los Angeles, and Coach Knight was determined that none of the games would be close. He thought that, maybe the Soviet team would be there, some of the other bigger teams. They didn't end up coming, they boycotted, but we practiced hard. We got after it a couple times a day, and it was again a master's class in not only from the coaching, but the kind of players you'd see coming up in the NBA later.
Yeah, that's cool. I actually spoke with someone who you faced in those Olympics, Bill Wennington.
Yes.
Okay, so you get drafted by the Nets, New Jersey.
Yeah.
So I know at that time, in '84, they had just beat the Sixers in the playoffs.
Yes.
And then they draft you. So what was that like, just being drafted and going into the NBA?
Yeah, it was a really interesting experience. We were not, it wasn't like coming to Madison Square Garden or the Barclays Center for draft night. I was actually in Bloomington, Indiana, and we were in like a television studio, me, Michael Jordan, Sam Perkins, Vern Fleming, and we were just waiting. They'd put us in front of a camera. And then, so getting drafted by New Jersey, you never knew. There were no cell phones, no Twitter, no Woj bombs. So you were sitting there not knowing who was going to pick you. But, getting drafted in the first round, coming to New Jersey, I had great teammates. It was a veteran team with Otis Birdsong and Darryl Dawkins, Darwin Cook, Foots Walker, Mike Jaminski, Michael Korn, Albert King. I mean, just so many good veteran players. And they really took care of me and helped me out.
So do you have just any memory just playing the Knicks as a member of the Nets? And,
boy. Yes, I do. Yes, I think I know where you're going with this one. So
actually, I don't even know about the story. I don't know what you think I know.
Well,
I don't.
So so it happens every Christmas.
Well, no, okay.
Every Christmas, I have to sit and watch it. Everybody calls me and said, "Hey, I'm watching this." So one of the very first Christmas Day games right here in Madison Square Garden, Nets, Knicks, Bernard King goes for 60 points, and unfortunately Jeff Turner was the starting small forward that night. I think I picked up 3 fouls in the first 3 minutes. Unbelievable game. The Nets ended up winning that game. Michael Ray Richardson had a huge night to kind of offset a little bit about what Bernard was doing, but every time I come to the Garden and I see Bernard King sitting on the baseline, he gives me a little wink and a smile like, yeah, I remember, I lit you up.
You know, it's funny because I was talking about a month ago with Thurl Bailey.
Yeah.
And when Thurl Bailey played with Utah, Bernard King scored 50 here against him and the Utah Jazz.
Unbelievable.
The same thing about happened to him. Yeah.
One of the toughest players to guard. He was so quick, his release, so fast getting up and down the floor. It was a very memorable game, and the Garden was rocking on Christmas. It was awesome.
Yeah, I always tell people that Bernard King is so underrated, you know, and I mean he really carried some Knicks teams when he was there. Now let me ask you, okay, so Orlando, first year Orlando is in existence, and so I guess they drafted you in the expansion draft. Okay, I'm sorry. Actually, I know you went to Italy.
Yes,
you went to Italy and played
I was actually one of the first free agents signed by the Magic. So after I left New Jersey, I went overseas and played in Italy for a couple of years, and then the opportunity to get back in the league, play in the state of Florida where I grew up. I got a chance to do that. So being a part of that expansion team, and really still being with the organization 35 years later is really kind of unbelievable.
Quick question. Did you play against or with Mike D'Antoni when you were in Italy at all?
Yes, I did. Mike D'Antonio was with Milan. It was a Tracer. It was the name of the team at that time. He played with Bob McAdoo, Ricky Brown, the great center out of Mississippi State. Yeah, sure did.
And was Kobe's dad playing there at
Yes,
that time?
he was. Okay. I did play against Joe as well, and remember meeting Kobe as a young kid at the Italian All-Star game.
Awesome. Now, Orlando Magic, the franchise changed when Shaq got drafted. So, what do you remember about just Orlando winning the first pick? And I know before, he was one of those major guys when in the college, everybody knows, okay, he's going to be a franchise, league-changing kind of player. So, what do you remember about just that whole time, winning the first overall pick in the lottery and then Shaq coming?
Oh, it changed our franchise. It really did. I mean, you think about it, we were an expansion team. We won 18 games our first year. We got hot and won 31 our second, and then fell backwards in our third and won 20 games. And so we, by virtue of the worst record in the league, best chance we get Shaquille. We went all of a sudden from an expansion team, we went to must-see TV. We didn't sell out when we traveled. We stayed in, smaller hotels. Now all of a sudden people are waiting for us when the bus gets there. The crowds, we're playing in front of sold-out places. And I always say the most important thing is that we were winning. With Shaquille, made everybody much better players. We had a focal point, a guy that just kind of carried us. So that was pretty special. And then a year later, ping pong ball happens again, and we get Penny Hardaway, and we were we were going.
Quick funny story. Just watching that time, as a kid or whatever, and I remember Orlando winning, and I wanted to see Shaq and Webber together. It's going to be Shaq and Webber, Shaq and baby Shaq. But Penny was my favorite player in college, though. He really was. So that was really great. I mean, Penny and Shaq, just how you all ended up. All right, I know making the finals, of course, '95. And those two guys really just dominated, and then played the Bulls a couple of times in the playoffs. I mean, I know you all lost in the finals in '95, but just what was the city like at that time, making the finals? And I know it had to be crazy.
Oh, it was. The crazy part is the lead up. Going into the '95 playoffs, the year before we had gotten into the playoffs and lost in the first round to Indiana. So we really had not won a playoff series. And so to get, first the Boston Celtics and then beating the Chicago Bulls in the semis, and then the Eastern Conference Final against Reggie Miller and the Pacers, went 7 games. Indiana won all the games on their floor. We won all 4 on ours. Just that whole run-up, and the city was alive. It was electric. The whole atmosphere winning in a small city like Orlando just changes everything. I mean, everybody rallied around us. It was really, really special.
Okay, just two more for you. I appreciate you. Now, it's interesting because the Knicks in Orlando, Knicks were really good at that time, Patrick Ewing, and it looked like you all might face the Knicks in the playoffs. Never happened. Knicks in Orlando have never played in the playoffs before. This season it might happen. Orlando this year, you all are an upstart team.
Yep.
You all have beat the Knicks 3 times this year. In fact, after the first game, December 29th, that was a tough game for the Knicks. The next day they traded RJ and quickly for OG and Precious and all that. Things changed, but then MLK Day, you all came here, got another win. Brunson missed that game, and then of course third game, Knicks, a lot of injuries. Y'all lost before the All-Star break. The Knicks lost. So, but this Orlando team, what do you credit this winning season to?
Well, I think I think it starts with the depth of this team. Let me go back. It starts with Jamal Mosley, our head coach. He's got a great rapport with this young crew. We've got great depth, so any injuries that we've had, and we've had a few, we've been able to overcome those because of our depth. With regard to the Knicks, that first game here was it was a war, 98-94, playoff-like basketball, but we haven't really played a healthy Knicks team since that time, so it'll be interesting if it is a playoff matchup to see how it goes. I'm expecting, like even today, tonight, that this one's going to be a more of a playoff type game because March always brings out the best in teams. But we've got good young talent. We laugh and say it. We think we've got a guy. Every team needs a guy, and Paolo Banchero, I think, is a budding star in our league. Franz Wagner, plays a nice complementary player to him as well. So we've got good pieces, good coaching, but we're really young. So, how far that can take us, we'll see.
Okay, Jeff Turner, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me. I really enjoyed this. Thank you.
All right, my pleasure.
We're back.